So I set up the company to fulfill myself, so to speak. I was young, very young, in my 30s, so I was still a bit of a live wire. In any case, with God's help, it has all worked out, and now we're trying to diversify by working in cinema as well as television.
Independent Television.
AIT, sharing the effort.
Morning and welcome to another edition of Focus Nigeria. I'm Oloyede Oworu, still holding forth for Gbenga Aruleba, who is taking care of business elsewhere. All right, let's not waste any time and begin with issues making the rounds. The campaign train of the comrade governor in Edo State, Adams Oshiomhole, is steadily gaining ground ahead of the July 2012 governorship election in the state. But a false move by one of the staff of the Independent National Electoral Commission office in Benin City, the state capital, caused an uproar in the state yesterday. Now, the staff is alleged to have engaged in illegal registration of voters before the date scheduled for the exercise by INEC. Now, this sparked off a protest led by the comrade governor himself, who accused the opposition parties of perpetrating fraud.
Of development. All those who believe in democracy, they must understand what is happening and why we are here. And the journey that we begin today, we will sustain it.
Who has been found with this box this morning says that they have been working in Uromi, the neighboring local government. Therefore, even before the date that had been set for registration has already commenced.
We hear that this ad hoc staff is now being interrogated by the police, and this development has prompted the INEC in Edo State to postpone the voter registration exercise it had scheduled would begin today. According to INEC spokesman in Benin City, Imodu Sule, the commission will soon announce a new date for the commencement of the voter registration exercise. And a meeting of all stakeholders in the Edo governorship election is to hold on Wednesday. Okay, still talking politics, but we're moving over to Oyo State in southwest Nigeria, where former Governor Rashid Ladoja is set to return to the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The Action Congress of Nigeria, which has accommodated him all this while, says Ladoja's decision to return to the PDP does not pose a threat to the party's resolve to continue in office beyond 2015. According to the publicity secretary of the party for the Southwest, Ayo Afolabi, the ACN has shown capability to retain the governorship seat come 2015, and that's why lawmakers from the PDP and the Accord parties in the State House of Assembly are all defecting to the ACN. So that simply means that the Action Congress is losing little sleep over Ladoja's defection. Well, we'll see how that all pans out. Okay, we're moving over to the National Assembly, where Senate President David Mark on Monday inaugurated a 36-man committee for the reconstituted Public Complaints Office. The commission, according to the Senate President, will strive to protect the rights of Nigerians, and as such, petitions must be addressed fairly, justly, and promptly, and devoid of rancor and unnecessary bureaucracy.
Very clear that we will not hesitate to remove any member of the Commission who is found to be incompetent, who is partial, who takes bribe to do his or her job, who is biased, compromised or allows himself or herself to be used by anyone or groups. You are the ombudsman of the nation, and therefore we will not accept laxity or lackadaisical or casual approach to work. All petitions or complaints must be addressed very promptly, fairly, and justly.
The core mandate of the Commission includes 1. To investigate and conduct the search in ministries, departments and agencies, other companies, including officials of these bodies. 2. To investigate administrative procedures of any court of law in Nigeria. To report crimes to the courts for after investigation. To report any officer for disciplinary action. To interpret policies of government and advise government and companies. To make company reports of investigation. To have access to all information, and lastly, to make recommendations, especially after proactive investigation.
Well, there you have it. Nigerians are generally known not to complain, to take everything on the chin with a smile. But with this Public Complaints Commission, with members drawn from 36 states of the Federation and Abuja, it's all hopes that they will deliver on the Senate President's promise. All right, the battle between the Lagos State government and the medical unions is still on. While the Lagos State government may have reversed its directive over the eviction of sacked doctors from their official quarters, the National Association of Resident Doctors says it will not hesitate to do whatever it takes to protect the interest of its members if the state government, according to them, remains insensitive to their demands. Now, the doctors are demanding the implementation of the Consolidated Medical Salary Scheme, or CONMES, if you like, and according to them, it is legal and did not warrant the approach taken by the state government. However, the action by the Lagos State government seems to have attracted some level of support from other schools of thought. The bottom line, however, is that Nigerian lives are at stake, and a peaceful resolution of the differences between both parties needs to be reached sooner than later. All right, those are the matters in Nigeria in the last 24 hours. And when we start talking today, we'll be looking at the amendment of the Constitution. You recall that we started this discussion last week with a look at the structure of Nigeria's federation and ways of tinkering with it to the benefit of all. When we start talking today, we shall look at state creation and the justification for the current clamor for additional states amidst issues of insolvency, financial autonomy, and for the state assemblies and the likes. We're also going to peep into what's happening in local government administration and how tinkering with the Constitution can also make that level of government autonomous, effective, and efficient. So let's quickly take a break to prepare for our discussions. Don't go away.
We want a good Nigeria.
Those that are benefiting are the IOCs. Why? Because they have a tax regime, a royalty regime that was framed over 42 years ago.
also with Morocco. Surely.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
exciting,
and breathtaking
experience
with Kakaki,
the African voice.
What has been failing before was that Nigerians became so docile. They didn't ask questions. They don't show interest on issues that are really burning their fingers and even affecting them, on the cancer that is eating the nation.
We have a government that is accomplishing so little because it is attempting to do so much.
It is absolutely important that the state of our criminal justice system is made an agenda item.
If you look at Section 285 of the Constitution, it says you must file your petition within 21 days from the date of the result of the election was announced.
We want a good Nigeria.
People that are benefiting are the IOCs. Why? Because they have a tax regime, a royalty regime that was framed over 42 years ago.
Right, nice to know you're still there. It's Focus Nigeria. It's a Tuesday morning on AIT. And like I told you before we went on break, we're going to kickstart our discussions where we are going to take a look at how to tinker with the Constitution in such a way that the Federation will be beneficial to all. There's been all sorts of talk. There have been clamors for state creation. There have been calls for greater financial independence for all the tiers of government, and only recently we saw some bold moves being made at the National Assembly to try and make state houses of assembly financially autonomous too. That's probably to release it from what some people say the stranglehold of powerful state chief executives. Well, these are some of the things we're going to be looking at on the program today. How should the Constitution be tinkered with to make it beneficial for all? And I have two gentlemen in the studio who will more than do justice to that topic, I'm sure. Emmanuel Jime is the chairman of the House Committee on the Federal Capital Territory. He is, if we can see him, yep, there we are. People will think it's me, of course, but there's the man himself, Emmanuel Jime, Chairman, House Committee on the Federal Capital Territory. Honorable, great to have you on the program.
Thank you so much.
We're also joined by Eseme Eyibo, who is the Chairman, Committee on Donor Agencies and Civil Society. Hope I got that right.
Yeah, all time.
I did. All right. It's always nice to have you on the program.
Good to be here.
Also. All right, Honorable Jim, I'll start with you. For you, and I mean, as a member of the National Assembly, what do you think are the major flaws in the Constitution as regards the, relationship between the various tiers of government, the various arms of government at different levels?
Well, first, thanks for having me here. Let me just say that for me, what obviously is of fundamental importance as we go into this next set of attempts to amend the Constitution is certainly with regards to how the local governments are structured. As you know, presently in the Constitution, particularly Section 7 of the Constitution, which provides for the creation of local governments and their establishment, it is clear to me that that tier of government is skewed in such a way that it is completely tied to the apron strings of the state government. And if you look into development, certainly as far as the ordinary person on the streets in this country is concerned, it would seem to me that until and unless we address local government and their structure, then we would not have started on the path of real development as far as democracy is concerned. So for me, I would believe that the ongoing attempt, and I would like to use this opportunity to first notify our countrymen that at the level of the House of Representatives, this is an issue that we already have started addressing. There's already a proposal on the floor which has passed the second reading. And what we are attempting to do is to, as much as possible, grant financial autonomy to that tier of government. And we believe that when we do this, then at least for once, we will have a situation where the personnel that run the local government councils can then become really accountable for the huge sums of monies that are actually expected to go to that tier. The point being made is that as at present, because of the constitutional lacuna, which allows for the states to totally control the purse of the local government areas, you don't need any rocket science to tell you that these funds most often are not getting to the points where they should get. And so I think for me that presently will be one of the most important developments in our polity, and I would like to report that at the House of Representatives, that is an area that we're already engaged in addressing.
Okay, Honorable Ibo, like Honorable Jimmy said, this thing is not rocket science. I mean, this is something that's been pretty obvious. It's been left like that over the years.
Well, I think first, I don't want to repeat the fact that is of fundamental concern to the House of Representatives presently, and that's why as a House we are urgently considering most of these issues. But when we are talking about the issue of tiers of government, some of us are of the thinking that the local government council, was it actually intended to serve as a tier of government? Or was it intended to just mean a unit where money could be thrown into, then it will be used to fund the economic choristers of the emperors at the subnational? Why I'm saying so is that Section 7 of the Constitution actually guaranteed a democratically elected local government council. But out of the 774 local government councils across this country, you have not less than 80% of it being run through caretaker. And these caretaker are existing at the whims and caprices of the government at the subnational, which is very unfortunate. Take a state like Anambra State. Since 1999, we started a trial at this democracy. They have never tested democratically elected local government council. And some states even go to the extent of even creating some, giving in name development areas to expand their empires. So to my mind, it's not the issue of, it may not necessarily be the issue of the amendment of the Constitution. I am not totally saying that we don't have to look at the Constitution. There are a series of issues that we have to look at in the Constitution, including the structures of the local government council. But when you begin to see the management and the administration of local government councils across the country, you now begin to see that what we are running is not a democratically, a constitutional democracy. We are running a monarchical democracy. That is the government.
That's a long one.
Yes, the government of the monarchs for the monarchs by the monarchs. Because somebody sits back without reverting to the law, he constitutes a local government caretaker council. And these persons, nobody questions. The civil society I'm talking about may not necessarily mean, the NGOs and the rest of us, but all of us in the society, in the particular clan, we are all members of the civil society. And we behave as nothing is happening. And we all go out canvassing for our relatives, for our friends, to also be appointed. And you see the level of illegitimacy, and nobody has for one moment gone to court to challenge the breach of the Constitution. So what I'm trying to say, however, is that we also have to, it's like an individual's life. How successful you are in life is a function of your lifestyle. And lifestyle in this case is attitude. So if you look at what is going on, it's most unfortunate. You go to, there are some states that the local government council, what they do, the government at the state level will now ask, what project do you want? They mention the project. It is executed from the state capital. And they have a local government joint account. That joint account is a creation of the Constitution. So, and I recall that in the in the 6th Assembly, when we attempted the issue of first line charge for the state houses of assembly and all that, you saw what happened. So if that is what happened at that level, that somebody is coming to give me food to eat, somebody is coming to empower me, somebody is coming to legitimize, my constitutional existence, and I'm saying, no, I don't want it. So we are going to see a lot of these issues. And now people are still going back again, asking for creation of more local government, asking for creation of more states. Yeah. What is the intention? The intention is not for public interest, because people want to create freedoms so that they will now be able to continue to enlarge their coast, undermine the constitutional democracy, and say democracy is working.
Okay, we're still going to come to the issue of the creation of states and local governments later. Now, Honorable Jimmy, like he said, this local government issue, the skewed nature of local government administration, as you called it, isn't necessarily a constitutional problem. I guess that's what you were trying to say.
Yeah, to some extent.
To some extent. Yeah. So, what would it take to, put a perfect balance to make sure that, local government administration is really serving the people?
Well, I think my attitude to this discussion will be that so far as my experience is concerned, that you have to locate the problem of the local government, and indeed in the way that they're functioning, to the fundamental structure of the local government. And reason, of course, being that, as I said, there is a constitutional lacuna that has made it impossible for the local governments to be extricated from the apron strings of the states. Yes, it may just be that there are some human factors that have made it impossible for the system to function, even with the challenges that it has right now. But I think going forward, you have to recognize that you first must address the legal issues properly. Only then can you begin to say whether there is an issue that is beyond, legality. Coming from the legal training that I have received, my approach has always been that first you have to get the laws right, and then after that, you can then begin to look at the human environment that has made laws not to function as properly as they should. So it's difficult really at this point to suggest that it could only just be a human factor that actually has made it impossible for the local governments to function. So I believe that the correct approach is to do the right surgery by looking at the laws. And once you have done that, you can now ensure that the right structure is in place. You can then begin to query why it is that the structure is not functioning the way it should, even when the law is there and has clearly provided a pathway, for the local government to function. So for me, that would be my take, that we need first and foremost look at the law. And I think we're approaching it from that right perspective by going ahead with this particular procedure that is ongoing right now at the House of Representatives.
Okay, if you're just joining us, it's Focus Nigeria this Tuesday morning. We're looking at issues of the different tiers of government, issues of autonomy, and how to make all the tiers of government and all the arms of government at the different tiers, get them to work for you and I, because there's a general feeling that all these local governments, like we've just been saying up to now, just don't mean anything to a lot of people. And I think, according to what our guests are saying, maybe they want to take it from the local government angle so that, they get it right from the grassroots. We have another guest in the studio who came in a little late, but like they normally say, better late than never. It's my pleasure to welcome Makama Keri. I think I got that right.
Yes,
he's the principal partner, Selem Consults. I don't know if you caught some of the discussion while you were on your way in. Let's quickly have your take on what you make of. Well, we're starting off with local government administration and how it's skewed and what it would take to get it right. Let's have your take on that.
Well, local governments, for any society, are the fundamental tiers of government that bring development to the grassroots. You can't have the balanced kind of social growth, industrial development, entrepreneurial development, business development, except at the local government. All right. What we have in Nigeria, of course, everybody knows, is that there's a lot going on in the center. Everybody wants to come to Abuja. Everybody's looking at what the federal government has to offer. All right. And to the credit of the federal government, there's a lot of programs that they've put in place to alleviate some of the issues, to stimulate economic activity. But unfortunately, all of that is in Abuja. Okay? So you're not getting anything happening at the grassroots level. Now, education, okay, trade, agriculture, we tout a lot of these things and say, oh, we need development here, we need development there, but it's not happening at the grassroots. It's happening in the urban centers, it's happening in Abuja, it's happening in the state capitals, whereas the local governments are supposed to have the responsibility of stimulating economic activity at the grassroots level, of stimulating development at that level. And my take is simply this. You have elected officials at the local government level, we have elected officials at the state government level. But our entire national debate is focused on the national level. Why? Citizens make demands and criticize national leadership. But a lot of the things that we want, a lot of the things that we're looking for are within the purview of the state and local governments. So therefore, we need to educate our citizenry to demand more from the state and the local government leadership.
Okay, just before you came in, both honourables were taking a look at what it would take to, fix things. Honourable Eyibo believes that it's not purely a constitutional matter, that there are some, non-constitutional human elements that need to be addressed to get things right. While Honourable Jimmy doesn't totally disagree, but believes that let's deal with the constitutional and legal matters first. And then by the time we deal with that, then if there are still things lacking, then we can address that. How do you think it should be addressed?
Well, I'm inclined to agree with the Honourable Chime, yeah. Before you move forward, all right, you need to make sure that the legal precedence is there. All that seems to be required is there. Then you can now start assessing the system, okay, and checking, seeing what state or who is going wrong or who is doing the wrong thing, and then you want to call them to order. I think that's the approach to take, moving forward, because you don't want a lot of legal battles on your hands when you now start trying to call certain practices into order. All right, that now slows down the process. But once you put that legal structure, let me call it that, in place, all right, then you're free to
Honorable Ibo, you're on your own.
Yeah, no, the point I was, before I am being misunderstood,
Okay.
what I was trying to put there is that when I started, I said that, 1, Section 7 of the Constitution guarantees, a democratically elected government at the local government level. And out of 774 local government councils in Nigeria today, over 60% of them, over 60%, I stand to be corrected, are not democratically elected. There are caretaker committees, and which is in breach of the Constitution. We need to now begin to ask ourselves, is that the issue of the enforcement now? Now that the Constitution, which has guaranteed, democratically elected councils, and that is in violation, observed in breaches, what do we do? There has to, while we are still in the process of the amendment of the Constitution, those aspects the Constitution have guaranteed must be redressed where it is observed in breach. It must be addressed, because we cannot keep making laws and they are not enforceable. We have something in place already. Those things must be in place, and the Constitution must be protected and preserved by the observance of the extant provisions of the Constitution.
Okay. Nakama said something which I think was pretty key, talked about the people themselves. That they did much of the debate these days is around the center, and that people don't take up leadership at the local level when things go wrong. Is that a fair assessment? And if it is, how should that be addressed? Who is responsible for sensitizing people at the grassroots level to demand some kind of accountability from their leaders at that level?
Well, it's true. I agree totally. We all have responsibility here, I think. But most importantly, in a democracy where you have opposing political parties with different ideas, all going out there in the market space of ideas to be able, to get the electorate. I think therein lies the responsibility that we have as politicians. It seems to me that, unfortunately, the opposition, if you may put it in that liberal sense, has not woken up to its responsibility as much as it should. What I mean is, where you have a contest of ideas, when there is a ruling party in office, the job of the opposition is to point at those critical areas of development that have not been addressed and to offer alternatives and options. When elections come, you can then fight elections on the basis of those ideas you're putting forward. Unfortunately, in our country, because we do not really have politics that is based on ideas, most often it is only simply a contest for power without any real ideas behind it. And I think for me that's perhaps one of the greater challenges that we have going forward in our democracy. So to answer your question directly, I think the responsibility to ginger development at that tier of government really lies with parties that are not in power, because then they can now provide options and the alternative that is necessary, that is required in the democratic space. So that's one aspect, I believe. I think to answer further, and to take a cue from what my colleague, Honorable SMS said, I think, like I said, the responsibility is of all of us. Where there is an obvious breach in the Constitution, it seems to me that the responsibility for enforcement lies with everyone. I mean, I imagine that all of us here will recognize that if there was a breach of the Constitution, that we have, rights that enable us, to approach the law courts in order to get enforcement of, breaches. Now, where no one seems to be interested in taking that responsibility, and all that we do is to sit and apportion blame and point fingers, there's no way that you can get the kind of development that you need in a proper democracy. So I think all of that wrapped together is what actually, in my mind, has led, to the sort of challenges that we're having, at the local government level. Okay,
Honorable Iba, you were talking about states. I mean, obviously from the way you sounded, it doesn't look like you like the issue of anybody coming up with a clamor for the creation of any state right now. But I mean, let's try and look at it, objectively. What would constitute a justified clamor for state in the Nigeria we're living in today?
Well, without any intention to undermine those who are clamoring for state, I must put it this way and clearly. You see, on Monday, you hear people canvassing for new state creation. On Tuesday, you hear another group of people talking about that the money they're sharing to states is not enough for them to take care of the 18,000 and other infrastructural minimum wage and other infrastructural development. So if we are having 36 states today, then the money we have is not enough, and you want to create more states again. What do you think is going to happen? So now, and the constitutional provisions for state creation is quite enormous and tasking, and it has set out the foundation for this agitation. Now, you will see some group of people who go to a computer center in Abuja and begin to print out documents that they want a state, and they begin to come out with uniform to the National Assembly and all that. It's not supposed to originate from here. It's supposed to originate from the people. The demand for a state is supposed to originate from the people. And who are these people? You know? And, of course, some of these states they're talking about, if you just look at the aerial geography of that place, maybe it's about 2 or 3 federal constituencies. So, more people, there are some who are genuinely canvassing for state, and granted that they have met the constitutional requirement. I don't have a problem with that. But most of the persons who are canvassing for state creation are looking for freedoms, places they will be able to emerge as godfathers, places they will be able to take over government unfettered, places they will be able to continue with the process of operation, so that the economic choristers will have space to be able to enjoy better life forever. It is not intended to address the fundamental issue of development.
All the clamors that you've received? Or
no, I am not talking as a member of the House of Representatives now. I am putting up my personal opinion. That is where, without necessarily undermining those persons who are clamoring for it. They have a right of association and a right to canvass whatever opinion they want to canvass. But if you ask me, what I'm saying is that right this moment, what we need in this country is to devise means of revenue generation and not the issue of allocation. And because the allocation they are talking about now, everybody is saying is not enough. If it's not enough for the present structure of 36 states, is it going to be enough for the present for the future structure of maybe 50 or 60 states? That's my worry.
Okay, Honorable Jimmy, what's your worry in all this?
Well, you see, first, of course, I am completely taken in by the sentiment expressed by my colleague. And to say that, you see, there's so much hot air and politics around this issue of state creation. So the first question, obviously, that one would need to ask is, looking at the present state structure that we have in the country, 36 states in all, can we, in all honesty, say that these states are viable states? Perhaps with the exception of Lagos, probably Rivers. Most of the other states are simply just their name.
Whether it's viable.
Well, okay, fine.
That again is a personal opinion, I guess.
Yes. But now, that having been said, the point that must not be lost, the fact that if viability is the key to the creation of states, viability in terms of issues of development, then I'll suggest that for now, we are better off even reducing the number of states. Yes. That would be my take. As I said, there's a lot of politics around this. I mean, people are playing that card, in most cases, to advance personal political interest. Certainly not national interest. Certainly not interest of development. And so my take would be that at the present time, we should, I think, be focused more on how it is that we can get development. And in that sense, I'm referring to good government. Especially at the level of the states and the local governments as well. quite frankly, my belief is that in this country today, it is only at the national level that there is at least a modicum of democracy and good governance in place. And that's because you have a National Assembly that, by and large, is autonomous to the extent that we're able, to do things without having to worry our heads every day where our resources are coming from. And that's why we also thought, in our wisdom, that we should extend the same autonomy to the states as well. As you know, like you said, in the Sixth Assembly, that exercise went to naught. We have resurrected that effort, and I believe that, God willing, the states, especially our colleagues, members of the state assemblies, have now seen the wisdom in ensuring that they too have a certain amount of independence. So I, in totality, will feel that I'm in agreement that at the present time, it's all politics. Finally, on the point, I wish to say that the constitutional provisions presently in place do not, in my view, debar from state creation. In fact, so far, no one has actually attempted to activate the provisions of the Constitution presently in order to be able to create a state. So, again, I don't know. The question really for me is state creation synonymous with constitutional amendment? And I think the answer is no. I mean, both are mutually exclusive. We can do constitutional amendment, but we should be able to also do state creation on its own. And when that is the case, state can then be created only on their merit. But is there any state right now in the clamor that merits creation? I doubt so.
Okay, Nakama, I would like to get your take on this state creation issue.
Yes.
Now,
he's not looking for a state of
now, a lot seems to be...
No, I'm not.
No, okay.
No, I'm not.
Now, a lot of talk about state creation seems to harp on economic viability.
Yeah.
How viable is a state? But certainly, aren't there other social, other considerations that need to be brought to bear when you're talking about state creation?
Yes. As I was listening to our honorables here, I thought about it, and the issue for me in terms of the clamor for state creation, is that number one, you have a number of people in Nigeria, a number of groups, all right? They may be defined by ethnicity or by gender or whatever, that feel oppressed, all right, or marginalized. I mean, aside from the political issues, I agree that a lot of the clamor for is just, people looking for political fiefdoms, all right? But the main issue for me is that there are people that feel disenfranchised from the current arrangement, all right? And they have legitimate grouses. And all over the country, I like to tell people, when we're growing up, they told us that there are 3 ethnic groups in Nigeria, Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa, and I'm neither. So, am I not Nigerian? So, but you see, in every state, you have minority and majority ethnic groups, all right? And at some point, they feel disenfranchised from what the state government is doing. They feel they are not, they don't have access, all right, to what the benefits of the state. Maybe development seems to be one-sided, because they are not part of a certain ethnic group. All right, these are people, these are Nigerians, these are legitimate concerns. These are issues of equity. And for these people, they come to feel that, look, self-determination is the way out of this. Give us our own state. Let us develop ourselves. Let's give our own children the opportunity to be educated, the opportunity to, develop and be promoted, economic activity, to be wealthy, to seek significance. All these things that are denied them by a majority group. All right? So I don't think we should gloss over the issue. We should actually look at what are the root causes, all right, for the call for state creation, and then deal with those issues.
Okay, Dr. I'm going to hand it over to you straight away.
If I may, very quickly, sir. I'll just give one example of what I understand as far as this issue is concerned. I'm from Benue State, and I remember whilst growing up in Benue, before state creation exercise that carved out part of Benin to Kogi. Our brothers, and I don't mean any disrespect, the Igalas, complained that they were being dominated by the thief in Benin State, and then clamored for a creation of their own state. Today, you and I know that in Kogi State, it is only an Igala man that can be governor in Kogi State. Point being made is, of those minorities, as soon as you create a state to address a minority problem, within that new state, you then have newer minorities that would have emerged. So I'm not sure that the only way to address minority concerns is by further balkanization. I mean, the key, I still believe, is good government. If you have government that is delivering, I'm not sure that people will be too concerned who is the president, who is the governor. But unless you address that fundamental issue of how it is that we're not providing leadership that is sincere, that is purposeful, that is focused on issues of development, we'll continue to have this kind of clamor. So I think we have to read that barometer together and to understand, the context in which this kind of discussion is unfolding. And I think so the submission that we make, that state creation, just as a means of rewarding people so they can become commissioners and governors in their own little enclaves, I don't think that is really necessarily...
I need to make a quick clarification.
Quick, please.
Yes. In my earlier submission, it's not that I support state creation. All right, I'm just trying to say that before we just gloss over it, all right, and say this, this is just this, we need to look at the fundamental issues that calls for that call and then address those issues. Otherwise, no matter what republic comes, no matter what new constitution we bring in, no matter what new government comes, people will still come up to call.
But I think Honorable Jim is saying that these issues can be addressed without necessarily creating...
Yes, although I disagree with him on a point. I think the issue is citizenship. We need to redefine citizenship in Nigeria. It's not just good governance, it's not just providing roads and light and water. It is that people need to feel that they belong to a society in which they make contributions and they are recognized as individuals.
I think a quick one. If you are talking about the issue of minority rights, and you want to redress it through state creation or local government creation, we will have over 100 and something states because there are so many minority people in the country. I will also look for one. But then, one other issue which is very important is that I think it would be wrong for a nation to now say that because of vulnerability to social injustice, that the way to redress it is to go through self-determination. That may not work out very well. I think the major issue, I'm aligning with my colleague, Jimmy, the major issue of good governance, clearly, may not necessarily be like he's talking about the issue of citizenship. We have always said these things. We have got, whether you are in a minority or you are in a majority or you are in an opposition party, though there's none in the country and all that, the issue is the issue of leadership and responsibility. And how do leaders emerge in our various climes, in our villages? How does our village head emerge? How does the councillor and the council chairman and the state house of assembly member and all that? So when you now begin to look at the leadership recruitment process, it's very weak. In most cases, once you have the right people in wrong places, you will have this situation of injustice. You have this situation of underdevelopment. You have this situation of people not getting it right. So as long as the citizens we are now committed to the nexus between the leader and the governed, because those things must be there. And it can only work if we readdress the issue of our leadership recruitment process. Presently in the country, in our various homes and our various states, in our various local governments, we are seeing leadership as a gift. And so people are not responsive to it. Leadership should be seen to be a responsibility that must be accounted for. So the moment it's seen from the perspective of being a responsibility that must be accounted for, most of the boys who are on the streets, most of the people now who are at various homes getting involved in opportunity crimes will now be able to now take ownership of government take ownership of their responsibilities, and this thing will get on very well, you know. And I can just quickly put one issue there on the table. Look at the issue of the land.
This is not as quick as we thought.
Yeah, no, it's very quick. It's very quick. You know, look at the issue of the Land Use Act. A lot of the folks at home at various levels of our communities would have loved to get engaged in agricultural program like it's talking about entrepreneurship and all that. But the process of getting a CFO or right of occupancy and all that may not even be on the basis of right or legitimacy. In some cases, on the basis of political considerations. Even when that is your own land, but you want to now fulfill the righteousness of the statute, it becomes a problem. So development, there are too many things, you know, staying there and making stifling development.
Well, sorry, it seems that the one thing that we're all in agreement with is that, I mean, there are a lot of these clamors really aren't justified. Now, I'm just wondering, is there anything constitutionally that can be done to kind of like raise the bar? Because, I mean, it seems quite easy to meet the constitutional provisions of state creation, from what I gather. Is there a way you can, you know, raise the bar, make it a little bit more difficult, make it, you know, less attractive to go for state creation?
No, I'd rather be saying that the present provisions in the Constitution are not really that easily attainable. Okay. Now, I believe that once you are able to pass through the criteria that is in the that's why there's even a clamor for constitutional amendment. Yes. Because people are even suggesting that we should make it more liberal.
To relax it.
Yeah. To relax it. Okay. And I think that for me, my position would be that, you know, the present provision in the Constitution is sufficient to deal with the situation such that any demand that can scale through those hurdles, then certainly would have been deserving, I think, of state creation.
Okay, I want us to get to the issue of state houses of assembly and autonomy in that regard. I mean, to free them from the stranglehold of emperors that some people have called some state governors. Now, Honorable Eyibo, you said you've tried that in the past and it hits a brick wall. The clamour's on again. Are you heading for the brick wall again, or you think you're going to get better results this time?
I think I'm an incurable optimist, but in this matter, I renege to be an optimist. Because if you look at the 36 states of this country, 98% of the laws passed at that level are executive bills. And what does that suggest? It's suggesting that the legislature at the state and the state executive, or at government at that subnational, there is not much issue of difference when it comes to exercising authority and all that. Look at appropriation, like we have in some cases the executive will bring it, the House of Reps and the Senate, the National Assembly, will go into engagement. That the system will now begin to be worried that, oh, what are these people up to and all that. But at the end of the day, it turns out to be for the people. And you begin to see, look at the issue of oversight. All the investigative activities of the House of Representatives in particular currently is as a result of the oversight. The level of independence the legislature is exercising in its constitutional responsibilities. And in effect, that is now reflecting in a couple of things happening at the national level. But can you have that at the state? And the more interesting thing about the constitutional amendment is that we cannot sit back here in the National Assembly and do it and we now begin to beat our chest, we've done it. It has to meet the constitutional requirements, which the state houses of assembly also have to be involved. And is it possible that these gentlemen, these colleagues of ours at the state level, is it possible that they will be able to stand up to it and face the rising sun?
Okay, let's quickly get Honorable Jim before we round up. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I mean, first, I'm optimistic that this effort will see the light of day. In the 6th Assembly, when we made that effort, you have to recognize we need 24 states of the Federation to approve a constitutional amendment, and it would have gone through. We were able to secure 23 states in the 6th Assembly. We fall short by one state, talking about autonomy to the state assemblies. Now, at that time, we didn't have this much exposure, this much level of discussion going on. And the level of sensitization that I believe has gone on in this effort right now was not there in the State Assembly. And then also, we now have had some of our colleagues who have come in from the various states into the National Assembly, who now have understood clearly, the concept of, autonomy of the legislature. And we expect that they will now assist us in educating our brothers and colleagues, at the state level to recognize that this is a very, very important feature of our democracy.
So you clearly see that there's light.
I believe we'll be able to.
Okay, this discussion was a continuation of a previous discussion on constitutional amendment, and as you can see, we're not done with this, so we're going to probably have part 3. Some later date. We've been looking at issues at how to tinker with the Nigerian constitution in a way to make governance at all tiers and all arms work for you and I. And joining us to look at this, we had Honorable Emmanuel Jime. Honorable Emmanuel Jime is the chairman of the House Committee on the Federal Capital Territory. Honorable, it's great to hear you on the program.
My pleasure.
Honorable Esene Eibo is the chairman, Committee on Donor Agencies and Civil Society. He's a friend of the house too. It's nice to have you on the program also.
Yeah, thanks.
We're also joined by Nakama Keri, who is the principal partner of Selem Consults, based here in Abuja, I guess.
Yes,
all right. It's also nice to
leader
have.
of the other state creation movement.
Exactly. I guess we'll talk more about that after the show. That's where we're going to wrap it up on Focus Nigeria for this Tuesday. Many thanks for investing your time with us in this joyous mood. I'm Oloyede Oworu here in Abuja, asking you to go out there and have yourselves a pleasant day.
AIT, sharing the African experience.
Now listen, the law is now beyond argument that the effect of a nullification of a thing, not necessarily an election, the effect of nullification of a thing is to completely wipe out, obliterate, remove, undo, erase, or render it ineffective.
Why must Nigerians pay the crime that has been perpetrated?
The Bisi Olakilo Show, BOS International.
I think the congregation tonight should be a period for celebration of the incoming, the end of the legal year, the beginning of the legal year, but a period also for sober reflection.
We have signed into law several legislations whose implementation will help us provide the service delivery that you expect of us and raise the standard of life.
The Bisi Olakilo Show, BOS International.
I'll give you all the finest things in life. You are the angel of my life, the love of my life. I love my baby, that's my baby. I will treat my baby right.
Words all over the world have made the Bisi Olakilo Show, BOS International, the first choice on their TV dials every week. The Bisi Olakilo Show, BOS International. Time out with TA. It's also a party.
Look, see, I know they got no longer, so they want friendship way longer. With me today, tomorrow, I'll be stronger.
Time out with TA. It's the variety comedy show everyone is talking about. Catch your favorite celebrities on Wine with TA. It's refreshing, revealing, and ridiculously hilarious.
With me, dear, with me, God still love me, I will be your...
Time out with TA.
The new month of the new year usually comes with a lot of challenges for so many people. Nigerians are not left behind.
Get the most current updates on The Money Show.
If you look at Nigeria and our people, a lot of people actually plan for the year from January up to December.
Independent Television. AIT. Share.
Whatever element as contained in this must be thoroughly investigated, but not play politics with the issues of wages.
Hello and thanks for staying with us on Africa Independent Television, AIT. This is Inside the Parliament, the program that brings you events, reports, issues, debates, all going on within the Nigeria's legislature. I'm Egosa Igumbo. Well, last week was quite dramatic in the House of Representatives as the operators and regulators of the capital market threw brickbats at each other with the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, that's Aruma Ote, alleging financial mismanagement against former Director General of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, India Kereke Onyuke, who in turn responded that she did nothing wrong while at the exchange, and that the SEC boss had no right to query how the exchange spends its money since it is not a public institution. Then the SEC boss herself was on the hot seat 2 days after, as she watched her fellow commissioners, managers and staff deny her and accuse her of running the commission as a personal estate. At the Senate, it was the turn of Aloysius Etuk, the chairman of the Committee on Establishment, which conducted an investigative hearing into the administration of pensions in the country, to clear the mud with which he was smeared, following allegations that he and members of his committee demanded a 2 billion naira bribe. The accusation came from the chairman of the pension task team set up by the Office of the Federal Civil Service, Abdul Rashid Maina. Of course, Etuk debunked the allegations, saying it is a ploy to cover the findings of the committee. Well, we'll give you all the details in our news report, and don't forget, we'll also be linking up with our crew at the National Assembly for live proceedings from the Senate. Well, these and many more after the break, so stay with us.
the autonomy of the local government is very vital and very important, and we need to support this bill so that local government can have their autonomy. Hence, therefore, based on my simple analogy of a foundation of a building, I so support.
Now read the second time, say aye. Again, say aye now.
Moving straight into our news bulletins, the former Director General of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, NSE, India Okereke Onyuke, has responded to the allegation of financial impropriety leveled against her by Aruma Ote, the Director General of Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. Defending her actions while at the Stock Exchange before the House Committee investigating the near collapse of the capital market, Onyuke denied all the allegations, adding that SEC cannot query the spendings of the exchange. She also called on the Securities and Exchange Commission to concentrate on its role as a regulatory body rather than merely policing the capital markets. AIT's Olakin Sonia reports.
In an 18-page presentation, said the present method of forceful policing of the market by the Securities and Exchange Commissions is counterproductive. She therefore wants the Commission to join hands with the stock exchange and investors to develop the market. The former NSE boss also used the opportunity to deny allegations of financial mismanagement leveled against her by Aruma Ote, the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC.
These accounts are fully audited from 2006 until 2009. And as for whatever the money was used for long service award, I want you to know, Mr. Honorable Member, that long service award is for 48 years, not for 1 year. So if you hear that 80 watches were bought, it is for 48 years, because stock exchange is 50 years old. And the stock exchange never shared any money to council members. Stock exchange gave money to council members to go on educational tour to learn.
She further told the committee that the forceful invasion of the stock exchange building, trading floor of the exchange on August 1, 2010, contributed to the run on the market and the loss of investors' confidence. Her position was corroborated by the former managing director of Afribank, Sebastian Abigwe.
The CBN pressure that they put on banks for banks to recover margin loans, the pressure was so much that what banks were now doing was just selling off those shares at any price whatsoever, just to be able to get out and have respite.
The hearing continues.
Now, a bill to further amend the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution to provide for financial autonomy for state houses of assembly has killed second reading at the House of Representatives. During debate on the bill, the lawmakers said the amendments will enhance proper legislative oversight and good governance at the state level. AIT's Chukwuemeka Gowiki reports.
In the 6th National Assembly, the state houses of assembly rejected moves to the amendment of the Constitution to give financial autonomy to state legislators. But the 7th Assembly is revisiting the issue, stressing that the state legislatures should have another opportunity to promote accountability and good governance at the state level.
I state clearly also in reference to the previous assignment, whereby financial independence was given to Parliament, essentially the state house of assemblies, and to my amazement, they rejected it. It is unbelievable.
As responsible Parliament, we cannot but continue to enforce and insist on the need that our legislators at the various state levels must be financially independent, must be autonomous in all its ramifications. Because if they are autonomous, the advantages can better be imagined than described.
Change is the only thing that is constant. Yes, they refused it, But is it a good thing for them to have? The answer is yes. And because the answer is yes, positive, good, that is why the National Assembly, the House of Reps, must continue to insist that they have it. For that to be an effective democracy, the need for the independence of the legislature cannot be overemphasized. The success and the deepening of democracy in any clime depends on the extent to which the legislature is independent and autonomous enough to discharge its constitutional role without let or hindrance. As a result, if you want to deepen democracy at the grassroots levels, there is a need for the state houses of assembly to be truly independent, not to be offended of the executive arm of government.
We don't need to look around or ask questions for why was he rejected. The reason is very simple. The governor of various state House of Assembly are not in support of financial autonomy for the respective state assembly.
The House also approved the second reading of a bill seeking to provide for the protection against victimization of persons who disclose information of unlawful or corrupt practices of others. Going by the provisions of the bill, individuals who make such disclosures in the public interest will also be rewarded. In another development, the House will reconsider the bill on the establishment of Nigerian Air Force Institute of Technology, Kaduna. The bill was passed by the Presiding Assembly and forwarded to the Presidency.
We have conceptualized within that institution, and I think it is one institution we need to uphold with all honesty and see how we can use that institution to bring out airmen and women, professionals that can bring the Nigerian Air Force to the next level.
And the Green Chamber has mandated all its standing committees to provide within 60 days detailed report of all ongoing and abandoned projects under the federal government's Millennium Development Goals. In taking the decision, the legislators observed that the trend of abandoned projects has continued to be a conduit pipe through which the National Treasury is drained. AIT's Chukwemeka Gwawike reports.
Since 1999, the National Assembly has appropriated trillions of naira to the federal government ministries, departments and agencies for infrastructural development of the nation. In spite of these huge allocations, there is still a dearth of infrastructural facilities across the length and breadth of Nigeria.
On an abandoned project. This is a project that was brought before the notice of this House. This portion will give us the clear opportunity of harmonizing all these projects, and at the end of the day, use the clear power of appropriation in taking care of some of these challenges.
A mover of this motion also mentioned that Ikorodu-Shagamu Road has been abandoned for years. The project was awarded, the contractor was paid, he didn't do the job, he abandoned the job, now it's been terminated, nothing has been done. And that road is just there.
In mandating its committee to ascertain all ongoing projects in preparation for the 2013 budget, the House called on the Secretary to the federal government to provide it with a copy of Architect Bunu's committee report on abandoned projects of the federal government within 2 weeks. In another development, the lawmakers want the Acting Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Abubakar, to urgently come up with a strategic plan to combat insecurity in the country. The lawmakers adopted the resolution following a motion by Chris Azubogo on armed bandit and kidnapping in the country.
Beyond inviting the security agencies whenever these things come up and begin to ask them to come and explain strategies or how they want to deal with the issues, for me those things are ad hoc. Let us begin to look at the serious issues that are fundamental, to these problems, especially the issues of value orientation, the issues of state police, the issue of how we play our politics, and above all, getting the people themselves who are the victims and beneficiaries of whatever decisions that are taken at this level to drive the process itself. It is only then that as a people and as a nation we can experience the change that we all desire.
In those states that are challenged, the governors, the government of those states would prioritize the security and then spend some money on security at the time it is needed. Now these things are left to the federal government, and and the federal government, quote and unquote, is not really there. So the person who is there, this community policing we are talking about, I think it should be looked at. Our traditional institutions should be allowed to their responsibility. We are a station whereby our traditional rulers, like before, whenever a stranger comes to their domain, to their place, they know the stranger, who you see, what he's doing. Community policing. We should rather emphasize on community policing rather than having state police. So community policing should be the emphasis. That is the only way out we are going to come out of the present security situation.
The legislatures also urged the police chief to intensify road patrol along the nation's highway, especially in dark spots across the country.
Nigeria's Senate President David Mark has called on the nation's security agencies to step up their strategies to contain threats to the country's corporate existence. In an address to welcome his colleagues back to work last Tuesday after a week break, Mark also asked the government to explore the possibility of dialogue with the Boko Haram Islamic sect. At the resumed plenary, the Senate read for the second time a bill for an act to repeal the Center for Automotive Design and Development Act of 1992. Correspondent Zahidu Anyago reports.
The level of insecurity in the country is totally unacceptable, and something must be done to improve it, and very quickly too. Clearly, the terrorists have declared war on Nigeria and Nigerians.
The president of the Nigerian Senate told his colleagues that the devastating effects of incessant bombings on both human lives and infrastructure can only be addressed if all hands are brought on board.
We have a real problem on our hands, and we must handle it with the seriousness that it deserves, and we should never politicize it. Divisive statements or finger-pointing are not helpful. Attempts to apportion blame for failures at this time or the burgeoning terror threats will not lead to any practical and lasting solution.
The disturbing security situation in Nigeria is not the only issue that caught the attention of the President of the Senate. Senator David Mark is also concerned about the state of corruption in the polity.
The inefficiency and corruption in the system, which the various investigation committees have uncovered, could have been reasonably abated if we had carried out our oversight functions exhaustively and effectively.
Moving straight into the order of the day, the Senate deliberated and read for the second time a bill to repeal the Automotive Design Act 1992.
With the repeal of the act establishing the Center for Design and Automotive Development and the National Automotive Design and the establishment of the National Automotive Design Development Council, will eliminate the duplication of functions hitherto performed by the two bodies.
Their separate existence is just tantamount to duplication and waste.
Apart from the fact that we have heard about it today, I don't think that any Nigerian knows that these agencies exist.
The Senate earlier received the report of its Committee on Foreign Affairs with respect to the screening of the nomination of Bianca Ojukwu as an ambassador of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
In another development, the Nigerian Senate is to investigate the recruitment and deployment of about 2,000 untrained armed operators by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, that's the NDLEA. The decision followed debate on a motion during which the senators dwelt on the danger of arming untrained personnel to prosecute the war against trafficking of illicit drugs. AIT's Zahidu Anyago reports that the Senate also read for the second time a bill for an act to amend the Companies Income Tax Act of 2004.
Bayelsa West, in the motion co-sponsored by 25 other senators, informed the Senate
that the duties of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency is too critical to be carried out by untrained operatives.
2,000 operatives were recruited and posted out without training. Mr. President, the first casualty was the killing of one Mr. Joseph Chia of Tarapu Town in Gwe East local government area of Benue State on the 16th of October 2011.
It is indeed really a pity, because to get a young man or a woman on the street and use taxpayers' money to buy an arm and arm him or her, to say the least, is officially providing an armed robber on the street.
If there is no provision for training, which is part of engagement or employment, then the employment or the engagement is illegal.
Progressing further into the order of the day, the Senate considered and read for the second time a bill that seeks to amend the company's income tax 2004. Senator Andy Uba, PDP Anambra South, is the sponsor of the bill to amend the company income tax.
There's no way I could go to my village or somewhere and establish a factory, and I was given 5 years moratorium. There's no way I can make 100. But I'd rather take that company and go to Lagos and establish it in Lagos, Port Harcourt, or Kano, where there's already an infrastructure. So this bill is to give the companies that will come in to establish industries 10 years of moratorium if you're going to establish in the rural areas.
Senator Uba is not seeking moratorium for only those companies that are just coming in. He also wants those moribund industries in the local areas to benefit from these particular amendments.
So in my bill too, I suggested that those companies should be rejuvenated so that the companies will be able to employ people.
Another bill that's Casey reading is seeking to establish the Chartered Institute of Certified Secretaries and Reporters of Nigeria.
Chairman Senate Committee on Establishment and Service Matters, Aloysius Etuk, has urged the National Pensions Commission PENCOM to intensify its supervision of participants in the contributory pension scheme. He said in Abuja that if the problems associated with the old pay-as-you-go pension system are to be avoided, PENCOM must look into the level of compliance and bring violators to book. AIT's Olakin Soya reports.
For 2 months, the Nigerian Senate investigated the administration of the old pay-as-you-go pension scheme. It discovered massive corruption and embezzlement of the funds by its managers in various establishments to the tune of 21 billion naira. This has raised the question as to whether or not the contributory pension scheme now being operated under the 2004 Pension Reforms Act will not end up in the same way. Chairman of the committee which probed how the old scheme was administered, Aloysius Etuk, has this answer.
PENCOM must increase the tempo of supervision because it is, as a regulatory agency, PENCOM must make sure that they look into the level of compliance, and they must define a system that would immediately bring out such organizations which have not complied with the acts.
Etuk, however, expressed displeasure at the manner in which the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, harassed some of the witnesses who testified before the committee.
Surprisingly, these people who have been around with EFCC and partying with them are suddenly became the center of attack. And we said, please, leave these people, let us finish the public hearing and finish getting evidence from these people before you arrest them.
One of the witnesses, Shaibu Teidu, a former director of pensions in the office of the head of the Federal Civil Service, had told the committee of how he recovered 38 billion naira from the pension fund of the EFCC.
The 15 billion, which was released for the payment of pensioners' entitlement, these funds were removed from the account with checks, not with the e-payment. Okay. Government directive is that any payment to be made from from government account should be by e-payment.
Okay. Shola Akinsanya, AIT Parliamentary News.
Well, those are some of the major stories from Nigeria's legislature in the last couple of days. Time now to join Shola Akinsanya at the National Assembly for live proceedings from the Senate.
Nominee into the Senate chamber.
Thank you very much, Ehosa Igubo, and welcome to the floor of the Nigerian Senate for another day of legislative business after the weekend break. I am Shola Akinsanya and can tell you that quite a lot is on the table for the Senate to do this beautiful sunny Tuesday out here at the 3-arm zone in Abuja. Already the Senate is in session and 6 bills have already passed the first reading stage. I'll quickly run through the bills for you. Chartered Institute of Response Agency Act, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Response Agency Act of 2006, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission Act of 2012, and Government Accountability Office Establishment Act. Right now, the Senate has resolved into the Committee of the Whole to consider the request of Mr. President for the nomination of Mr. Inua Abdulkadir as a minister of the Government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I now take you to the Senate to watch how the minister, the nominee, will be screened.
Distinguished Senators before us, Alhaji Omalam Inu Abdulkadir, Esquire, from Sokoto State. Inu, you have not been before the Senate before, but I want you to relax. We have all got a copy of your CV. There's no need to repeat what is in it. But if there is anything here that you're not too sure of, or anything you want to remove and you want to disregard, then you let us know. Also, if there is anything that you have not put in your CV that you think will help us in taking our decisions, I would like you to let us know. And if there is any special thing that you want to emphasize on because you think is in your favor, also let us know. And I hope you know why you are here. The President has chairman as one of his ministerial nominees. If we confirm you, then he will appoint you as one of his ministers. And if we don't, then Sokoto State will be asked to bring another person. But I want you to feel at home with us. Let me emphasize that we must tell us the truth, nothing but the whole truth. Because if we find out otherwise, it will be in their own interests. Distinguished colleagues, James Manager. Oh, okay. Well, I see so many hands up, that's all. Okay. Your Excellency, Senator David Mark, President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I want to
humbly about what is this honorable Senate.
Well, I'm afraid we may have to interrupt that live telecast from the National Assembly, where the Senate is beginning the